The city of Lagos was alive, as always, full of horns, hawkers, and dreams. It was the kind of city that could lift a man to greatness or swallow him whole. In the middle of the chaos stood Adaora Nwosu, a young woman who believed the world revolved around her perfectly shaped heels. She came from an influential family in Enugu, studied abroad, and had recently returned to Nigeria with an accent polished like glass. But behind the accent and designer bags was a soul that had grown distant from humility. Adaora was beautiful, no one could deny that, tall, dark-skinned, with a confidence that turned heads. But her arrogance was louder than her beauty. She walked through life as though she owned the air around her, and anyone less fortunate was invisible. That morning, the sky was gray with the promise of rain, but Adaora didn't care. She was dressed in a crisp white blouse, a short pencil skirt, and heels that clacked against the marble floor of the Victoria Island Plaza. She was on her way to Lionheart Holdings, one of Nigeria's largest conglomerates. The company had recently announced a new management program, offering a high-paying position to young professionals. Adaora had applied, and in her mind, the job was already hers. She arrived early, clutching a sleek brown folder and a phone worth more than a teacher's yearly salary. She stopped at the company's main gate where an elderly man, dressed in a worn-out blue security uniform, was sweeping the floor near the parking lot. The old man's back was slightly bent from years of labor, and his gray hair poked out from under a faded cap. His face carried wisdom, the kind that comes from both suffering and grace. "Good morning, sir," said another applicant, a young man standing nearby. The old man smiled warmly. "Good morning, my son. May your day bring you favor." Adaora, hearing the exchange, scoffed. "Favor? Please, what can an old sweeper's blessing do for anyone?" she muttered loud enough for him to hear. The old man looked up and smiled, not with anger but with patience. "Young lady, blessings can come from anyone. You never know whose words reach heaven faster." Adaora smirked. "Save your sermon for people who need it." "I didn't come here for prayers, old man. I came for success." She flipped her hair, rolled her eyes, and strutted off toward the reception area. The old man didn't reply. He simply nodded and continued sweeping. Inside, Adaora's arrogance continued to show. She looked down on the receptionist, mocked other applicants for their cheap clothes, and loudly boasted about her overseas degree. "Honestly," she said to another candidate, "I studied business administration in London. I don't even know why I'm applying here, but my father said I should start with a local experience before opening my own firm. You know, just for fun." The others shifted uncomfortably. One girl whispered, "This one doesn't know that pride comes before a fall." Hours passed. The waiting room grew tense as candidates were called in one by one. Adaora grew impatient. She snapped at the receptionist again. "Do you people not know time management? I've been sitting here for 2 hours." "Sorry, ma," the young receptionist said politely. "The panel is still in session." "Well, tell them to hurry up. I have a lunch meeting at the Orchid Lounge by 2. Her loud voice echoed through the hall. A few staff members exchanged glances but said nothing. After a while, a junior staff member came to escort the next candidate, a humble young man named Cunnell. He wore a simple shirt and carried an old folder, but his face glowed with sincerity. He paused briefly to greet the old sweeper at the gate again before entering. "Good luck, my son," the old man said softly. Cunnell smiled and nodded. When Cunnell emerged after his interview, he looked encouraged. Adaora smirked at him. "So, how was it? Did they ask you about your village farming techniques or your hustle spirit?" she teased. Cunnell smiled faintly. "They asked about my goals, ma. I told them I want to grow with integrity, not greed." Adaora laughed out loud. "Integrity doesn't pay bills, my dear. Money and connections do." Everyone in the waiting room fell silent. Some were embarrassed for her. Some just looked away. Soon, her name was called. She stood up, straightened her blouse, and strutted into the interview room like a queen. The panel of interviewers was seated behind a long wooden table, 4 people in total. 3 were middle-aged professionals in suits, and one chair at the center was empty. "Good morning," Adaora said, her British accent thick and deliberate. "Good morning, Miss Nwosu," replied the woman at the far end. "Please, have a seat." Adaora sat gracefully, crossing her legs and flashing a polite smile. "It's a pleasure to finally meet you. I've been hearing about Lionheart Holdings for years." One of the men leaned forward. "Tell us about yourself." "Well," she began, "I'm Ada Ora Nwosu. I studied in London. I come from a well-known family, the Nwosus of Enugu. Perhaps you've heard of us. I'm passionate about leadership, management, and—" The door opened quietly. Everyone turned. An old man walked in slowly, wearing the same worn blue uniform and carrying his cap. It was the same man from the gate. Adaora's jaw tightened. "What is this?" she whispered. The others rose to their feet respectfully. "Good morning, sir," they all said in unison. Adaora was confused. "Sir," she muttered. "Why are they greeting him like that?" The old man smiled kindly and took the empty chair at the center of the table. He placed his cap on the table and opened a file. "Please continue, Miss Nwosu," he said gently. Her eyes widened. "Wait. You're part of the panel?" The woman beside him chuckled softly. "He's not just part of the panel, Miss Nwosu. He's the chairman of Lionheart Holdings, Chief Obinna Okeke." Adaora froze. The color drained from her face. The same man she mocked at the gate was the owner of the entire company. Chief Obinna looked at her with calm eyes. "You were saying something about leadership, my daughter?" She stuttered. Yes, leadership is, about commanding respect. No, I mean guiding people respectfully." He nodded slowly. "Respectfully, yes. Tell me, how do you define respect?" She swallowed hard. "It means treating others well, I suppose." Chief Obinna leaned forward. "Including sweepers, gatekeepers, and old men, perhaps?" The room went silent. The sound of rain tapping on the window filled the air. Adaora's throat tightened. She couldn't speak. Chief Obinna continued, "I have built this company with my sweat and humility. I have swept these floors myself when I was your age. Every worker here, from the janitor to the manager, deserves respect. You may have degrees and style, but if your heart is proud, you will destroy whatever you build." Tears welled in Adaora's eyes. "Sir, I didn't know who you were." He smiled faintly. "That's the point, my child. You never know who you are speaking to. In this life, treat everyone as though they carry your destiny in their hands, because sometimes they do." The other panelists watched silently, deeply moved. Adaora's arrogance had evaporated. She bowed her head, ashamed. "Thank you, sir," she whispered. Chief Obinna closed her file and handed it to the woman beside him. "That will be all, Miss Nwosu." She stood shakily, muttered a faint "thank you," and walked out of the room with trembling legs. Outside, she sank into one of the waiting chairs, her heart pounding. The same receptionist she had insulted earlier approached gently. "Are you okay, ma?" Adaora forced a smile. "I'll be fine," she said, but her voice cracked. She glanced out the window and saw Chief Obinna talking to Cunnel, the humble applicant. They were laughing together like old friends. She watched as the old man placed a hand on Cunnel's shoulder and said something that made him beam with joy. Adaora realized the true meaning of humility that day. She remembered her mother's words from years ago, "Never look down on anyone, for the ground you walk on might one day be their roof." The rain outside turned heavy, washing the city streets clean, as if the heavens themselves were teaching her a lesson about starting anew. That night, she couldn't sleep. Her mind replayed every word, every smirk, every arrogant tone. She felt disgusted with herself. Her expensive clothes and degrees suddenly felt meaningless. The next morning, she returned to Lionheart Holdings, not to beg for the job, but to apologize. She waited by the gate until Chief Obinna arrived. He was dressed differently this time, a white agbada, crisp and regal, with beads around his neck. A black car dropped him off, and the security guards rushed to greet him. Adaora stepped forward nervously. "Good morning, Chief." He looked at her for a long moment, then smiled. "Ah, Miss Nwosu. You came back." "Yes, sir," she said softly. "Not for the job. I came to say I'm sorry." He nodded slowly. "Apology accepted. But tell me, why did you really come back?" Her eyes glistened. Because I realized something. I came here to chase success, but I forgot that success without humility is emptiness. Chief Obina's face broke into a proud smile. That is wisdom, the kind money can't buy. He turned to one of his assistants. Please, bring me her file again. Edaora blinked. Sir. He chuckled. Humility is the final test for leadership. Congratulations, Miss Nwosu. You passed. Tears streamed down her cheeks. She fell to her knees, thanking him repeatedly. Chief Obina reached out and lifted her gently. Stand, my daughter. Never kneel for man, only for God. Go and make this company proud. The first day at Lionheart Holdings was unlike anything Edaora had imagined. She had expected prestige and comfort, maybe even a personal assistant to carry her bag. Instead, Chief Obina assigned her to the Community Relations Department, one of the least glamorous divisions in the company. When she saw her name on the posting board, her heart sank. Community Relations, she whispered. Isn't that where they handle rural outreach and charity programs? The receptionist from before smiled softly. Yes, Ma. It's a very important department. Chief believes that's where true leadership starts. Edaora nodded silently, though part of her ego still ached. She had dreamed of working in marketing or management, something with polished boardrooms and big deals. But she reminded herself that this was a second chance. Chief Obina had believed in her enough to forgive her arrogance. She couldn't waste it. Her supervisor was Auntie Iriti, a middle-aged woman with kind eyes and a motherly voice. Welcome, Edaora, she said warmly. Here, we serve the people who make this company great, the small farmers, artisans, and youth. Our job is to give back. Edaora forced a smile. Yes, Ma. Her first assignment came quickly. She was to travel to a small village in Ogun State where Lionheart was funding a clean water project. She was to assist with documentation and community engagement. It wasn't the glamorous work she was used to, but Edaora accepted it. That weekend, she boarded a dusty bus that rumbled through winding roads, far from the skyscrapers of Lagos. The further they went, the more the world changed, from noisy traffic to quiet fields, from perfume scents to the earthy aroma of rain-soaked soil. When they arrived, barefoot children ran alongside the bus, laughing. Women balanced water basins on their heads, chatting in Yoruba. Men in faded shirts waved as the bus passed by. Edaora stepped down, her high heels sinking into red mud. The villagers stared curiously at her crisp white blouse and shiny bag. She felt out of place, like a visitor from another planet. Auntie Iriti smiled. Welcome to the real Nigeria, my dear. They were greeted by the village chief, a gentle old man named Baba Tund. He bowed slightly. You are welcome, my daughters. We thank Lionheart Holdings for remembering us. Edaora returned the greeting awkwardly. She wasn't used to such humility. But something about Baba Tund's voice touched her heart. There was warmth in his tone, a simple joy that came from gratitude, not wealth. Over the next few days, Edaora began to see a world she had long ignored. She saw women waking up before dawn to fetch water from distant streams. She saw young boys carrying firewood twice their weight. She saw old men with tired eyes still smiling as they worked under the sun. She also saw laughter, pure, unfiltered laughter. The kind she hadn't heard in Lagos, where everyone pretended to be happy but carried secret pain. On the third day, while documenting the progress of the water borehole project, Edaora's shoe broke. She stumbled and nearly fell into the mud. A little girl, about 10 years old, ran to her. Auntie, are you okay? Edaora laughed. Yes, I'm fine. My shoe just doesn't like your village. The girl giggled. Then you should wear our kind of shoe. She pointed at her own feet, rubber slippers, patched but comfortable. Edaora smiled genuinely for the first time in days. Maybe you're right. That night, she sat under the stars with Auntie Iriti, eating roasted corn and listening to distant drums. Ma, Edaora said softly, do you ever wonder why Chief sent me here? Auntie Iriti smiled knowingly. Chief Obina believes humility is the foundation of leadership. You can't manage people you don't understand. You must see their lives, feel their struggles, and understand their hearts. Edaora nodded slowly. He's right. I used to think success was about status. But here, people are happy with so little." Auntie Irene chuckled. "That's the irony of life, my dear. Sometimes the poor sleep better than the rich." For the first time, Adaora didn't feel like the city girl with fancy clothes. She felt human, grounded, connected, humbled. When the water project was completed, the entire village gathered for the inauguration. Drums beat, women sang, and children danced around the new borehole. Baba Tund raised his hands to the sky. "May Lionheart Holdings never lack," he declared. Adaora's eyes filled with tears as she watched women fill their first buckets of clean water. A small boy ran to her, holding out a gourd of water. "Auntie, drink first," he said proudly. She took it, sipped, and smiled. It tasted pure, like forgiveness. That evening, she called Chief Obinna. "Sir," she said softly, "I wanted to thank you." "For what, my daughter?" "For sending me here. I learned more in 3 days than I did in 3 years abroad." The old man chuckled. "That's good. You see, Adaora, education polishes the mind, but humility polishes the soul." When she returned to Lagos, everyone noticed the change in her. She no longer walked like a queen among peasants. She greeted cleaners, shared food with drivers, and spoke to everyone with kindness. But life wasn't done testing her. A few weeks later, during a management meeting, Chief Obinna announced he would be retiring soon. "It's time for younger minds to lead," he said. "I'll appoint a new managing director before the end of the quarter." Whispers filled the room. Everyone wanted that position. It meant power, prestige, and a salary that could change lives. Among the hopefuls was Charles Dyke, a smooth-talking executive in his mid-30s. He was ambitious, charming, and dangerously manipulative. He noticed Adaora's growing closeness with Chief Obinna and decided she was his obstacle. One evening, as employees left the building, Charles approached her in the parking lot. "Miss Nwosu," he said, flashing a perfect smile. "I hear the old man likes you. Maybe he's grooming you for something big, eh?" Adaora frowned. "Chief respects me because I respect him. That's all." Charles laughed. "Respect? My dear, in this company, respect doesn't buy you power. Strategy does." She shook her head. "Strategy without conscience destroys people." He leaned closer. "Then maybe you'll learn that soon." Days later, rumors began to spread. Someone had leaked fake reports claiming Adaora mishandled company funds during the water project. Anonymous emails circulated, and whispers filled the corridors. When the board summoned her, Adaora was trembling. She knew she was innocent. But in corporate Nigeria, truth didn't always win. Chief Obinna sat at the head of the room, his face unreadable. "Adaora, these are serious allegations. Do you have anything to say?" Tears welled in her eyes. "Sir, I swear I didn't take a single naira. I've worked hard to earn your trust. Please believe me." Charles sat nearby, pretending to look concerned. "It's unfortunate," he said, "but the documents are quite convincing." Chief Obinna stared at him sharply but said nothing. The meeting ended with uncertainty. Adaora was suspended pending investigation. That night, she walked through the streets of Lagos in the rain, heartbroken. She had tried to change, yet life had turned against her again. The neon lights blurred through her tears as thunder rolled above. She found herself in front of a small roadside church. Music floated out, a soft hymn. She entered quietly, drenched and trembling. Inside, a few worshippers sang in broken voices. She knelt at the altar and whispered, "God, why? I was proud, yes, but I changed. Why am I still suffering?" A gentle hand touched her shoulder. She turned. It was Chief Obinna. "Sir," she gasped, "you followed me?" He smiled. "No, my daughter. I come here every Friday night. I didn't know you would be here." He sat beside her. "Do you know what I've learned in life, Adaora? Sometimes, trials come to prove your transformation. Not to punish, but to prepare." She wiped her tears. "But they're saying things that aren't true." "I know," he said softly. "And I also know who's behind it." Her eyes widened. "Charles." He nodded. "Yes. But don't fight him. Let the truth fight for you. A week later, a junior staff member confessed that Charles had bribed him to forge documents. The truth came out, and Charles was dismissed immediately. When Adaora was called back to the office, Chief Obinna stood waiting with a gentle smile. You see, my daughter? The truth may walk slowly, but it always arrives. She bowed her head. Thank you, sir. He placed a hand on her shoulder. You've passed your second test. Now, you are ready. She looked at him, confused. Ready for what? He smiled. For leadership. At the next company gathering, Chief Obinna announced his retirement officially. He called Adaora to the stage. This young woman once mocked me, he said, his voice deep and warm. But through humility, she became my greatest student. Today, I name her the new managing director of Lionheart Holdings. The hall erupted in applause. Adaora stood frozen, tears streaming down her face. The same workers she once looked down upon were now cheering for her. Chief Obinna turned to her and whispered, Lead with your heart, not your pride. She nodded, trembling. I will, sir. As the music swelled and people celebrated, Adaora looked at the crowd, the cleaners, drivers, secretaries, and managers, and realized something profound. The old man had not just given her a job. He had given her a new life. Adaora sat in her new office, staring out at the skyline of Lagos. The city pulsed with energy, car horns, shouts from street vendors, the distant hum of traffic. It was the same city she once thought she had conquered. Now, she understood it differently. It wasn't a trophy to be claimed, but a world to serve. Her office was grand, glass walls, fine furniture, and a view of the ocean that sparkled like hope itself. Yet she felt the weight of the responsibility that came with her new role. She wasn't just managing a company, she was guarding Chief Obinna's legacy. Every morning before she began work, Adaora would walk to the ground floor and greet every staff member, from cleaners to clerks. They had grown to admire her humility. Some even whispered that she was becoming like Chief himself. But not everyone was happy with her rise. One morning, a newspaper headline screamed, Young woman becomes MD overnight, rumors of favoritism and secret ties to chairman. Adaora's heart sank as she read it. The gossip spread quickly, fueled by jealous rivals who couldn't accept that she earned her place. Some claimed she used charm to climb. Others said Chief Obinna had a special relationship with her. She sat in her car and cried silently. Why do people always twist goodness into evil? She whispered. That afternoon, she went to see Chief Obinna. His house in Ikoyi was an old colonial mansion surrounded by trees and peace. Birds chirped as the evening sun filtered through palm leaves. He was sitting outside in his compound, wearing a simple white kaftan, sipping tea. When he saw her, he smiled. My daughter, you look troubled. She handed him the newspaper. They're saying things that aren't true, sir. I can't bear it. He took the paper, glanced at it, then laughed softly. My child, when dogs bark at a moving car, does the car stop? She looked up, confused. No, sir. Then keep moving, he said calmly. If you stop for every bark, you'll never reach your destination. Adaora smiled faintly, but her eyes were still moist. I just hate that they question your name because of me. Obinna placed a hand on her shoulder. My name cannot be stained by lies. I've lived long enough to know truth shines even when buried. He looked away toward the sky, his face suddenly distant. You remind me so much of someone. Who, sir? She asked softly. He sighed. My daughter, my real daughter. Adaora blinked. You have a daughter. I had, he corrected, his voice heavy. She died 15 years ago in a car accident. Her name was Kayamika. She was bright, stubborn, and proud, just like you once were. Adaora's heart ached. I'm so sorry, sir. He smiled sadly. She wanted to study abroad, but I was poor then. We argued. She left home angry, and that night, the accident happened. I never got to say sorry. Tears filled Adaora's eyes. Maybe God sent me to help you heal, sir. He chuckled softly. Maybe he sent you to remind me of forgiveness. They sat in silence as the evening wind blew gently through the garden. Days turned into weeks, and Adora's leadership began to transform Lionheart Holdings. She introduced youth empowerment programs, built new community projects, and increased staff welfare. The company's reputation soared again. Even the press grew silent, replaced by praise and admiration. But trouble was never far. One evening, as she left the office, a young man approached her at the parking lot. He was tall, dark, with kind eyes. "Excuse me, Ma," he said. "I'm the new IT officer, Emeka. Chief asked me to deliver a file to your desk, but you had already left." Adoora smiled. "Thank you. You could have dropped it tomorrow." He shrugged. "I didn't want it to get misplaced. These people can be careless." She laughed. "That's thoughtful of you. You're new here, right?" "Yes, Ma. Just 2 weeks." "Well, welcome to Lionheart Holdings. We're more of a family than a company," she said warmly. From that evening, Emeka began to appear often, helping with reports, fixing her computer, sometimes bringing her lunch from the cafeteria. His humor was gentle, his presence comforting. For the first time since her transformation, Adoora felt something she hadn't felt in years: affection. Still, she kept her guard. "Focus on your work," she often told herself. But the more she tried to stay professional, the more her heart betrayed her. Chief Obinna noticed. One day, he called her into his office. "Adoora," he said with a teasing smile, "this young man, Emeka, he visits your floor quite often." She laughed shyly. "Sir, he's just doing his job." "Ah, is that so?" he said, raising an eyebrow. "Be careful. Love is sweet, but it can also distract." She blushed. "We're not in love, sir. He's just a kind soul." Chief chuckled. "Even kind souls can break hearts, my dear." Adoora smiled and brushed it off, but deep down, his words echoed. As months passed, her bond with Emeka grew. He listened when she was stressed, encouraged her when the media criticized her again, and made her laugh like a child. Slowly, she began to trust him, maybe too much. One evening, Emeka invited her to dinner at a quiet restaurant by the lagoon. The lights reflected off the water, and music drifted softly through the air. He held her hand and said, "Adoora, you're not just my boss. You've become someone special to me." Her heart fluttered. "Emeka, we shouldn't." "Please," he said gently. "Just let me care for you. That's all I ask." She smiled shyly. "You already do." They spent more evenings together after that, secretly. Adoora was cautious. She didn't want gossip again. But love doesn't hide forever. One night, as she left the restaurant with Emeka, a camera flash blinded them. A journalist had been watching. The next morning, headlines blazed again. Company scandal: young MD romantically linked with junior staff. The board summoned her immediately. Some members were furious, others amused. But the sting of judgment was sharp. Chief Obinna entered the meeting late. His face was stern. "Adoora," he said, "is it true?" She lowered her head. "Yes, sir. But it's not what they make it seem. He's a good man. I care about him." The board murmured. Obinna raised his hand. Silence. He turned to her. "You have worked hard to restore this company's name. Don't let emotions destroy it. Love is not forbidden, my daughter, but timing matters." Tears filled her eyes. "I understand, sir." After the meeting, Emeka came to her office, guilt written all over his face. "I'm so sorry, Adoora. I should have protected you." She shook her head. "No, Emeka. I made the choice too." Then he dropped the bombshell. "Adoora, I have to resign." "What? No. Why?" "I don't want you to lose everything because of me. People will think I used you. Let me go before they destroy your name." She grabbed his hand, tears streaming. "Please, don't go. I've lost enough people in my life." He smiled faintly. "If our love is real, it will find its way back." The next morning, Emeka was gone. His desk was empty, his ID card left behind. Adoora felt emptier than she had in years. Days turned into weeks. Work consumed her, but her soul was heavy. Even Chief Obinna noticed the sadness in her eyes. One afternoon, he called her to his office. My daughter, he said softly, you remind me so much of myself when I was young. I too loved someone the world said I shouldn't. Really, sir? She asked, curious. He nodded. Her name was Ngozi. She was a village girl. I was poor then, and her father refused me because I had no money. I left to build a life, and by the time I returned, she had died. I built this company to fill that emptiness, but no amount of wealth filled it. Eudora felt tears burn her eyes. Maybe that's why you built Lionheart with so much heart, sir. He smiled faintly. Maybe. But I've learned that love and humility are the only riches that never fade. He paused, then coughed lightly, a deep, rough sound that made Eudora worry. Sir, are you okay? He waved it off. I'm fine. Just old bones complaining. But he wasn't fine. Within a month, Chief Obina's health began to decline. He was diagnosed with heart complications and was advised to rest. Yet he still came to the office, insisting, Lionheart is my family. I can't abandon them. One evening, Eudora visited him at home. He was lying in bed, weak but smiling. Sir, she said, holding his hand, you've done enough. You need to rest. He chuckled softly. Rest is for those who've finished their purpose. I still have one more thing to do. What's that? To make sure Lionheart, and you, never forget why we started. Tears filled her eyes. You're the father I never had, sir. He squeezed her hand. And you are the daughter I lost. The room fell silent, filled only by the hum of the ceiling fan and the beating of two hearts, one old and fading, one young and still learning. Outside, thunder rolled again, and rain began to fall. It was as if the heavens were washing away the pain of 2 generations. He held her hand and said, Eudora, you're not just my boss. You've become someone special to me. Her heart fluttered. Emika, we shouldn't. Please, he said gently. Just let me care for you. That's all I ask. She smiled shyly. You already do. They spent more evenings together after that, secretly. Eudora was cautious. She didn't want gossip again. But love doesn't hide forever. One night, as she left the restaurant with Emika, a camera flash blinded them. A journalist had been watching. The next morning, headlines blazed again. Company scandal, young MD romantically linked with junior staff. The board summoned her immediately. Some members were furious, others amused. But the sting of judgment was sharp. Chief Obina entered the meeting late. His face was stern. Eudora, he said, is it true? She lowered her head. Yes, sir. But it's not what they make it seem. He's a good man. I care about him. The board murmured. Obina raised his hand. Silence. He turned to her. You have worked hard to restore this company's name. Don't let emotions destroy it. Love is not forbidden, my daughter, but timing matters. Tears filled her eyes. I understand, sir. After the meeting, Emika came to her office, guilt written all over his face. I'm so sorry, Eudora. I should have protected you. She shook her head. No, Emika. I made the choice too. Then he dropped the bombshell. Eudora, I have to resign. What? No. Why? I don't want you to lose everything because of me. People will think I used you. Let me go before they destroy your name. She grabbed his hand, tears streaming. Please, don't go. I've lost enough people in my life. He smiled faintly. If our love is real, it will find its way back. The next morning, Emika was gone. His desk was empty, his ID card left behind. Eudora felt emptier than she had in years. Days turned into weeks. Work consumed her, but her soul was heavy. Even Chief Obina noticed the sadness in her eyes. One afternoon, he called her to his office. My daughter, he said softly, you remind me so much of myself when I was young. I too loved someone the world said I shouldn't. Really, sir? She asked, curious. He nodded. Her name was Ngozi. She was a village girl. I was poor then, and her father refused me because I had no money. I left to build a life, and by the time I returned, she had died. I built this company to fill that emptiness, but no amount of wealth filled it. Adaora felt tears burn her eyes. Maybe that's why you built Lionheart with so much heart, sir. He smiled faintly. Maybe. But I've learned that love and humility are the only riches that never fade. He paused, then coughed lightly, a deep, rough sound that made Adaora worry. Sir, are you okay? He waved it off. I'm fine. Just old bones complaining. But he wasn't fine. Within a month, Chief Obina's health began to decline. He was diagnosed with heart complications and was advised to rest. Yet he still came to the office, insisting, Lionheart is my family. I can't abandon them. One evening, Adaora visited him at home. He was lying in bed, weak but smiling. Sir, she said, holding his hand, you've done enough. You need to rest. He chuckled softly. Rest is for those who've finished their purpose. I still have one more thing to do. What's that? To make sure Lionheart, and you, never forget why we started. Tears filled her eyes. You're the father I never had, sir. He squeezed her hand. And you are the daughter I lost. The room fell silent, filled only by the hum of the ceiling fan and the beating of two hearts, one old and fading, one young and still learning. Outside, thunder rolled again, and rain began to fall. It was as if the heavens were washing away the pain of 2 generations.